So I have to ask, which version is better? The Toa Mata, as you can see here, or is it the Toa Nuva? I love him. All right, so no, this is just a silly little. Oh, I realize he's missing his armor too. Anyway, this is just a silly video. I want to talk for a handful of minutes about the Toa Nuva masks a bit, but I'm not going to say anything super controversial. However, this is actually a Rai that I made and then, of course, modified to give it eyes. This is Klim the Clam. I know, creative, right? No, it's just a very silly little build from like 10 pieces, the head here at least, and just attaches to the head of Pohatu here with a bar. It's very simple. If you wanted to build something like this yourself, fairly easy, and I'll probably post the file at the very least. I think I have instructions for it too, but on the Discord. You'll find that in the description, and make sure you're subscribed. It does help out the channel. But anyway, let's talk about these Nuva masks here for a minute, because I actually don't hate them per se. I don't hate them, actually. However, I do feel like they're a little more restrictive than the masks from previous years. Part of the reason for that is they're just larger than their predecessors, but also they feel out of place compared to those predecessors. A lot of people say that they feel organic, which I kind of get. I think the biggest offender of that is probably the Akaku Nuva, but it's not awful by any means. I think all of the masks still do a pretty good job of representing the characters that they are, even if they are fairly different in a lot of cases. I've talked about the How Nuva in a previous video and how much I think it actually does right, given how similar it looks in terms of the shaping from its Nuva form to the original How Mata mask. There are a lot of cues from that original mask taken and placed here, even though this mask doesn't have all the same holes that the How Mata has. I wish that this was something that held true for all of those Nuva masks, but at the same time, I kind of understand why they didn't do it that way, mostly because, A, that's difficult, but also it would get to be a bit repetitive. So I'm not fully against it. There are other Nuva masks that I quite like. The Miru Nuva, in fact, is another one of my favorites, and honestly, I know it's controversial, but I may even like the Miru Nuva more than the original Miru, at least for Liwa specifically. Don't ask me why, and yes, I'm showing the silver one because it is the one that's closest to me. Not trying to humble brag. These are relatively inexpensive, so like absolutely go out and get yourself one of these. By the way, if you're able to afford it, they're like they were like $5. I haven't checked them in a couple of years, but they're great. They're neat little pieces. And the reason that this mask to me probably, I have a little bias towards this one, in part is because this was the first Toa Nuva that I had ever seen. I didn't even know that the Toa Nuva were a thing at the time. Yes, I got the Toa Mata back in 2001, but I didn't really see any of the commercials on TV for them. And what ended up happening was a kid that lived 2 houses down from me walked down the street to go to his friend's house, and he was carrying Liwa Nuva with him. And so I was outside. I happened to be outside when I saw him carrying it, literally like 15, 20 feet away from me, and I recognized him. I'm like, oh, hold on, what is that? Hold on, come back here. It was like 2002, you know? And so I saw that, and I was blown away. Liwa Nuva looks really good for what he is. Tahu Nuva looks good for what he is. And they're not all perfect by any means, but I think they are good representations of their characters. Something else I wanted to mention in this video specifically is a bit of a, a flaw with this mask specifically compared to all of the other ones. And this is only something that I noticed because I was building this clam, which is why I started the video off with the clam in the first place. Also, it's a great thing to start the video on, right? All of the other Toa Nuva masks, the mouth connection is, I'm going to say standard sized, right? Because they're all the same. But for some reason, the Pakari Nuva is shortened. So there's actually less of a connection for this mask than any of the others. I don't know why that is. It's a weird oversight. The thing with the Nuva masks is they're actually harder to knock off than the Mata masks. They're bigger and they're thicker, but there's something about the design of them that makes them grab onto the heads a little bit better, if that makes sense. And part of the reason for that is probably because they're bigger. They're larger targets, right? You don't want your Toa Nuva being easier to defeat than your Toa Mata when you're playing the game where you fight them, right? So it makes sense. And maybe this is strictly by accident. Lego may not have even thought about it at all. But from my experience, and I've had a lot of experience with this, they are different and substantially different. Something else I wanted to go ahead and show in this video is this mask right here, which is actually not the Akaku Nuva. Well, it is, but it's not Lego's. It's a bootleg one that I have. And the reason I wanted to show it is because it's the very light bluish gray color instead of white. So the Thok white, which that's always cool because it's a good color. There's not enough pieces, in my opinion, available in that color. But if you wanted to know the reason why Lego chose that color for Thok specifically, it's because his teeth were white and they wanted those teeth to stand out. You could make the same argument for the Borak as well, because they also had teeth that were white, but for the Borak, it wasn't really a selling point per se. The Paraka, though, had glow-in-the-dark teeth, light-up eyes, and so, like, Lego was very clearly trying to push that. I do think that Thok looks very good. Again, I love that color, especially for an ice character. It's something different. It's something unique. It can be a color that gets quite tiring, though, and it is actually a color I feature on the Ice Lord all the way back there, who uses just white, Thok white, or very light bluish gray, and transparent blues of various shades because of the pieces involved. But, yeah. So the last thing I wanted to go ahead and focus on in this video before we go ahead and end this one is a Rothanak design. So he actually went ahead and threw together one of the masks that I sketched up in some CAD program. I don't know what he uses. He might have told me, but I am very bad with my memory, so I don't remember it. But it is the Pakari Nuva. That's not what I meant to do. It's the Pakari Nuva. And OBS gotta cooperate. There we go. And this is what it looks like, and I like it. It came out really good. Again, this is made with CAD. I think if I was gonna mess around with this in Blender or something, I'd maybe shorten it a little bit, but that's just me. I was gonna say, like, kind of grasp this tall aesthetic for a lot of the masks I design, which I think is really cool because it makes them stand out from a lot of the other masks for the Metro Head specifically. And also, obviously, it incorporates the visor here, but the original Pakari is also a fairly tall mask rather than being wide. It's kind of an octagonal mask, but it's somewhat diamond shaped in that way. I don't know how else to explain it, but I love it. I think it carried over a decent amount of sort of the beats that I was going for with the mask. There are a couple things, of course, that he added for his own vision of the mask because, of course, right? If you're making the piece based on someone else's sketch, you're going to add your own touches too because that's awesome. And I love that stuff because it's bouncing ideas off of people so you can sort of get their input too. Does that make sense? Maybe I'm explaining this poorly, but I think you guys understand what I'm saying, right? So I do think it's really good, though, and again, just holding up the Pakari Nuva, I think you can see some of the aspects that I was drawing from, notably these sort of like chin protrusions, even these little bits out here, which feel a bit out of place, so I actually continued them over to the eye connection, giving it a sort of goggle-like aesthetic, which of course is reminiscent of Galley's Cow as well, so there are similarities there, which I think makes this a good mask to recolor and use on other characters as well. Of course, you can see the 5 different points, if you want to call it that, on the mask represented here as well, but also some of the holes from the original Pakari, kind of in the same locations as well. I decided to make the eye holes quite a bit larger in this one too, and of course they were carried over well because the visor, right? I wanted that to be something that showed through, but also because the original Pakari has those little like eye divots. I don't really know what else to call them. I'm going to show you a very unclean resin cast, but these little spots over here. So the eyes are fairly normal size, but those divots make them look bigger, if that makes sense. I don't know if that does make sense. Anyway, silly video, I know, and originally I was going to do this video as sort of like a breakdown of the Pohatu build, so you can like build it yourself. I feel like I at least want to kind of show off how I do the thumb. In fact, why don't I just do that to end this video? Why not, right? Of course, pulling it off here without dislodging anything can be a little bit tricky, but he's not holding the mask right now, so that's fine. But yeah, so the finger build is actually really simple. It's one that I discovered a while ago and other people have been using as well. I can't say I'm the first person to discover it by any means, and it doesn't matter. But utilizing the bootleg Mixel toe ball with the axle here. And all I do is I make sure that these little slits in the ball pin here are facing this direction. I don't know what else to say. And then I rotate it, and then you push down and it clicks into place. So that pin will actually like fit inside of here. It doesn't go through the hole because there's a stopper there, but it goes through enough to grab onto it, if that makes sense, right? So it doesn't like damage any of the pieces involved, and it works really well to give you that ball joint for the thumb. And it works because he can hold masks. He can do a lot of stuff with it. So long enough video, I think, for this one, guys. This was definitely an unscripted one, and it was kind of unfocused, but I like it. I'm really happy with a lot of these parts in general, and I think that there is a lot to appreciate about the Toa Nuva, even though I know that they get a bad rap sometimes. There's a lot to love with those sets, and I do think that they are good updates, let's say, to the Toa Mata platform, much more so at least than the Borak cow. So that's pretty much it for this one, guys. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel, and we are continuing to grow. We're at 2,100 subscribers now, so let's see if we can push ourselves forward. Been a bit of a slow day today, but it's been a bit of a cold day as well, so hopefully everybody's just inside staying safe. That said, if you want to join the conversation, you can always leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts on any of these masks, and let me know which of the Toa Nuva masks is your favorite, or which version of the masks from the original Toa Mata, Nuva, Fantoka, Mystica, and I guess 2015 and 16 too, because why not? Which of those are your favorites as well? As always, you can check out and join the conversation in the Discord, Instagram, or you can check out the Patreon if you want to support the channel, get some perks. All that in the description below, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.